What is up, guys? Marcellus Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health, fitness, social well-being. While these clips on screen are playing, guys, this is all footage from this most current training week. I want to talk to you guys about a couple of things. The first point is something that I kind of want to address in terms of my channel, and then the second point is going to be the actual topic of today's video. So the first thing I want to get into, guys, is kind of explaining why it is that I try not to do videos that are repeats of topics that I've already covered in the past before. Very often I've had people, ask me, hey man, why don't you revisit this topic? Or, hey, this is the current topic right now, why don't you cover this? And my answer is almost always, well, because I've already covered that before. Now, with that being said, if new information comes out over a topic, right, I have no issue with covering that. I've actually done that before. As well as if I find that my understanding of a topic has grown to the point where I feel like revisiting it would actually be beneficial for you guys, because you guys can see that there's actually more to it than what I covered last time, then I'm all for that as well. My issue is I'm at the point where, like, with my channel, I'm getting to the point where I've almost done, I think I want to say close to 400 videos. And in all of that, I'm happy to say that I have not had to revisit the same topic or become one of those channels where I'm covering the same topic over and over and over and over again. I've had, different videos that kind of cover the same realm or area where I break it down into different topics, and that's fine. And like I said, I've had some times where I've revisited a topic because there's been more information that's come out about it, and that's okay as well. But the problem that I think happens with a lot of content creators, especially in the fitness industry, is that they get so focused on trying to stay relevant, and they get so focused on trying to just crank out videos to where they end up revisiting the same topic over and over and over, whether it's because it's just a topic that they know really well, or whether it's a topic that is currently trending. And for me, I that's just not the direction that I've ever want to go in. It's like, how many times do I have to say calories in versus calories out? You know what I mean? How many times do I have to do a video going over the importance of progressive overload? Once that video is out, it's there, you know what I mean? So unless it magically disappears or YouTube deletes it, I don't feel the need to go back and cover some of these topics again, because I'm not about just getting views or just, trying to stay relevant or just crank out as many videos as I can. I'm about, trying to be transparent and give you guys information that's going to actually help and benefit you. So if there's a certain topic you guys want me to cover, and I already know that I've covered it in depth and nothing's really changed with it, I'm just going to tell you guys to go back and watch that video. So I want to kind of address that and make it clear, just because it's something that's been coming up a lot. And I've even actually had people suggest to me, oh dude, you know what you should do? Just revisit all of your old video topics and just make them look, different or cooler, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that's a bad idea. It's definitely not from a marketing standpoint, but the information wouldn't be any different. So to me, that's not being transparent. That's just trying to bring traffic to my channel. And any of you who've been following me long enough know that I'm not in this for, like, cloud or necessarily trying to get the biggest following. I'm always grateful for the growth. The growth has been great and consistent the 3 years that I've been doing this, but I just want it to be genuine. I want it to be the right way. So yeah, kind of just wanted to get that out of the way. With that being said, what I do want to start doing on top of covering the usual topics that I do, and mind you, these topics will always relate to health, fitness, social well-being, as I state in every video. I want to start talking more about kind of more topics that I think can be applied in a different way. Stuff that isn't just straight like, okay, guys, here's the facts, here's what this is, here's how it works. So I want to talk to you guys about things that are a little bit more nuanced, I guess. That's a fancy word that's being thrown around lately. And so with this video, what I want to talk to you guys specifically about is the importance of not over coaching. And when I say this is something that can apply to coaches who have athletes, but it's also something that can apply to you where you coach yourselves, or you train yourself. So even if you don't think of yourself as a powerlifter where you don't need a coach, if you're somewhere just doing general strength training, it's the same thing. And whether we're talking about like over coaching, over analyzing, being overcritical, it's all the same, right? Because we already know the detriments and the dangers of being somebody where you're too hands off, right? Like if you're a coach and somebody pays you to coach them, and all you do is like, okay, here's your program, good luck, I'll check in with you when I check in with you, that's obviously not coaching. You guys already know how I feel about that, because it's too hands off. If your client is struggling with technique or fatigue management, all these different things, and you just keep throwing the same programming at them with no type of adjustments, you're not helping them with their form of their technique, that is obviously not something that you want to do. And at the same time, if you're somebody where you're just coaching yourself and you keep doing the same thing over and over, making no changes, but then you're wondering why you're not progressing, that is an issue. So obviously I'm not somebody where I think you should just oh, don't even think about it, just go in there and train hard and you'll get stronger. Like, obviously we know that's not the case. However, what I want to talk about more specifically today is the problem with overcoaching. And when I say that, I'm referring to the idea that some coaches, whether it's because they're just overly analytical, or whether it's because they feel like they're somewhere where they have to constantly be doing something, otherwise they feel like they're not really coaching, that's a problem. For example, let's say a client sends you a clip, right, of squats, bench deadlift, whatever it may be, and it was a very well executed lift. Their positioning was on point based upon their, their morphology. They tensioned the lift well, like everything just looked really good. But you just feel like you have to find something to nitpick at because you need something to say because you're their coach, you're supposed to be critical of them. That is a problem. The reality is, guys, is that as you lift for years and years, or as you coach someone, for months and years, it should get to a point where there's not as much things that you have to call them on. Their technique and form should be getting better. It doesn't mean that you don't make adjustments as they arise or give them reminders if they're not doing certain things. And it certainly doesn't mean that, hey, if we find out, hey, you know what, we've been doing it this way for a few months and it's been great, but there's something we can do to make it a bit more efficient, that's fine. But the idea of constantly changing what your client's doing all the time, just almost as busy work, that's not beneficial. And that's going to lead to just as many setbacks as being the coach who's just way hands off. If anything, it might lead to more setbacks. Even if you're someone where you're just really hands off, as you lift and you start to do these movements more and more, assuming you're a competent lifter and you kind of like you look stuff up for yourself and you try things out for yourself, you're eventually going to kind of find a groove for a lot of these things movement wise. So because as much as there is a lot more depth to bench squat and deadlift than what a lot of people may think, these aren't the most complicated movements out there, right? Especially if we compare them to a lot of other movements like like Olympic weightlifting or just things we have to do in other sports. So with that being said, once you kind of find a good basis of positioning and form based upon your morphology, there's only so many adjustments and changes you really need to make with that. And usually those changes might add or take away a few pounds here and there, but assuming your form is not just god awful, no positional change you do is going to add like 100 pounds to your squat, bench, deadlift, or anything like that. So in those cases, the issue with being someone where you're just over coaching is you're constantly trying to change things. You're constantly messing with their form. You're constantly trying to tweak this and that instead of realizing that a lot of this is a process of patience. Sometimes when your lifter's having an off day or their position's not a little off, it doesn't mean you have to do something drastic with their form. Now, if it's happening consistently, once again, that's different. Address it. But sometimes I feel like coaches are afraid to kind of just look at circumstances outside of the gym. And sometimes I feel like coaches are afraid to look at circumstances that they create. For example, I've had clients where they've come to me and the problem that there wasn't so much their movement in of itself, but it was that they couldn't even get into natural positions to move in a way that feels most comfortable for them because they were feeling wrecked from whatever programming they were on before. So from doing something as simple as volume adjustments or looking at what their outside external factors are outside of the gym and making the adjustments to the programming based upon that, oftentimes clients are able to recover better. And when they recover better, they can move better. Or maybe something as simple as, hey, you know what? My client is struggling with doing 3 sets of 7. It seems like their form starts to break down after the 4th or 5th rep. Okay, well, don't keep throwing that at them. Maybe try 7 sets of 3. You're getting the same volume of workload in, but they can focus more on that technique because they're only doing 3 reps per set. Little things like that, rather than trying to just drastically change their form or positioning. And it's the same thing if you're coaching yourself. Sometimes the things that we try to fix, it's not the big complicated things that are the problem. Sometimes it's these smaller, simpler things that we can adjust and see a very, very big difference from. But it's important to know when that is and how that is. And once again, when you're dealing with newer lifters or beginners, you're going to be way more hands-on. It's going to be way more that you need to fix. But as your lifters get stronger and more advanced, there's just certain things that you aren't going to have to monitor quite as much. Certain things might arise, but hopefully not that frequently. And a lot of what you'll be doing will be more on the programming end or the fatigue management end, more so than making these huge drastic changes, because those little things you do with the programming and fatigue management are what's going to lead to the biggest changes in their overall positioning, execution, so on and so forth. And I just feel like that's something that's very, very important to understand, because it's one of these things where, like I tell you guys all the time, not everything is black and white, but not everything's gray either. Sometimes the solutions are going to be very, very simple, and sometimes they're going to take a little bit more in-depth thinking, and being able to differentiate between these situations of when it's going to be a simple solution and a more complicated one is what critical thinking is all about. And being willing to accept the fact that sometimes you don't have to do, all 10 things on the list of your usual coaching requirements, maturing to a point where you understand that it's going to be good. Like I said, a lot of my lifters who are doing really well right now is because I've set things up in a way where they can grow and kind of train and move freely rather than being restrictive and trying to control every single thing that they do. Whereas some of my other lifters, even ones who've been under me for a while, they just need me to be more hands-on just due to different circumstances that they're dealing with, and maybe just due to kind of their personality type. But yeah, this is just something I want to talk about. I feel like it's something that can be, applied to any of you who are lifting currently, just in terms of like thinking about these things a little bit more deeply than just like, straight black and white. So hopefully this helped you guys out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go leave a comment down below. Let me know what you did. If you're not, leave a comment down below. Let me know what I can do better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific, and I'll catch you guys later.